This hope is driven closely by the fortitude, commitment and energy of Kashmiris like you. There are many out. We could only get few of you here because of the space and time constraints. Today we have come a long way to an important juncture in recent history where doors for peace, stability, progress, prosperity and comes through lanes and from backyards, not from the front door. This is so true of our Kashmir today. We hear a number of people talking about Kashmir problem all the time. I believe it is not a Kashmir problem, but problem in Kashmir. The wrong terminology, if used, maligns a land and the people of that land. And so is true about Kashmir itself. The reality of Kashmir is easily visible to someone who sees Kashmir from distances like me, who goes out for some time and then comes back and serves here and sees it from within. This is the land of beauty and abundance. And I always keep on telling everybody that abundance is here, where anything you sow grows in its most exquisite and beautiful form. From apples to plums, to apricot to saffron, to nadru to almonds, and all seasonal vegetables one can imagine. The fruit and vegetable markets in every village of Kashmir reflects this abundance that God has bestowed upon this land. Even people with good heart. जो बो दिया वही उग जाता है यहाँ पर. शायद पत्थर भी बो दो तो वो पत्थर निकल आएगा. And therefore I believe in Kashmir, if you sow hate, you will get hate. And if you sow love, peace and harmony, we will get love, peace and harmony. Choice is with you all, with us in Kashmir. It is not just the land, but it's people who are abundantly talented and capable. Good souls who naturally carry the spiritual vibes that this land was famous for 4 to 5 millennia. Revered by so many religions and spirituals, it needs to become heaven again, not only in terms of natural beauty, but also in nature of living thoughts this land was blessed for, so that it can again be called heaven on earth on true sense. Kashmiris who went out for different reasons at various points of history have prospered, all because of their natural capabilities that make them succeed. They rose to become important people driving political, spiritual and social landscape of India or Bharat. Even Kashmiri Pandits who were driven out in 90s with their hard work have prospered. Then what has gone wrong in Kashmir that is seen as Kashmir problem? I quote Kashmir problem that we need to talk about. What has caused last 30 years of violence, pain, gloom of death in this blessed land, place of which terrorism, radicalization, victimhood, brainwashing, religious bigotry, etc. are uttered more often about Kashmir and Kashmiris than the good I have talked about earlier. It has been long since the time Sir Walter Lawrence said, when Kashmiris were accused of riding 2 horses together and unable to be in control of things or their destiny. Before I share my views with you all on the present day Kashmir, let me first take this opportunity to talk about how we came to this situation that we face today. Kashmir was an abundant land and traversed own destiny in 13th century. In sad turns of events, Kashmiris lost control over their destiny to foreign tyrants and invaders. Seeds of fear were sown on this fertile and blessed land. Kashmiris lost their ability to smile, to be happy, and started to learn riding 2 horses for survival. Later, even the benevolent rulers like Badshah could also not undo the damages, since the foreign rule continued to remain exploitative in different forms. The 17th century was worst. Even after 1947, when Kashmiris smelled the fragrance of democracy, the seeds of ambiguity were sown for 75 years. The narratives of riding 2 horses for personal advantages were built. In the 80s, the seeds of Azadi came to sprout only to be replaced by seeds of separatism and radicalization. The stories of 90s are well known but rarely spoken of. While driving out Pandits, even many Muslims left, valley due to the prevailing conditions. Seeds of exploitation of women by rape and their disempowerment turned a progressive matriarchal society away from becoming a Kashmiri society contemporary of modern world. The seeds of hate sown sprouted in this fertile land and caused the continued misery. The 75 years also experienced the seeds of distrust and lack of pride in own tradition and history in the Kashmiris. The radicals made many Kashmiris want to ape the culture from the near west. It reminds me of the famous quote of Marcus Garvey in 19th century, and I quote, "The people without the knowledge of the past, history, origin and culture are like the tree without roots." Unquote. The Kashmiris need to reclaim its roots that were intellectual, benevolent, spiritual to become a real progressive society. Pride in heritage and tradition needs to be regained rather than adapting foreign seeds being sown by vested interests. The last ray of hope in first decade of this millennia, which was squandered on the altar of radical thought, spread through the social media, which finally culminated in the events of 2016-17. Kashmiris were not sure of what next. The radicals seemed to rule the roost. A lot of water has flown through Jhelum since 2016-17, especially after August 2019, and a glimmer of new beginning is visible. There is hope on the horizon. The security parameters are good. Many violence affected areas of Kashmir and Valley or Srinagar are now back as economic hubs. The economy is looking better despite COVID. Education is back on its feet and Kashmiris are looking to be part of the opportunity boom as in the rest of the country. There are opportunities for all who have the capability and the intent. Kashmiris have the capability. Time is to sow seeds of prosperity and more importantly of inclusion, happiness and harmony. It is for the youth now, of which you are present here, to build on that positive energy, to lay foundation for a progressive society. But let us remain vigilant. The vested interests who once tore the Kashmiri society apart will once again sow seeds of perceived victimhood, oppression, or religion under threat. Let us not get misguided by such voices and propaganda. Another appreciable aspect is the growing voices of the women folk in the Kashmiri cultural landscape. It is so heartening to see the fairer gender taking lead on so many platforms, so far dominated by men. Glorious successes of our Kashmiri women in fields of sports, politics, administration, journalism, and business entrepreneurs are explicit example of the new normal to which the society is opening up. Today, for first time, Valley will see 2 women SSPs. What a change! Because of these winds of change, it is bringing more economic and infrastructure development in the valley. Look at the rapid progress and boom on the tourism front. Despite apprehensions about the security situation for many tourists, their first visit to the valley is a dream come true. Now, these tourists have flocked to the valley in groups along with their families from across the country. Long queues at the airports, baggage claim, families waiting for Dal Lake to hop onto a shikara, couples posing in traditional Kashmiri attire at Nishad Bagh, a bustling Lal Chowk, packed restaurants, fully booked hotels. The Kashmir Valley is seeing a rush of tourists with estimates of it being the biggest footfall ever. It is so heartening to learn that over 3.5 lakh tourists, mostly domestic, have visited Kashmir in the last 3 months. This number is expected to go up in the coming months. As many as 6.6 lakh tourists from across the country visited in Valley in 2021, which is a considerable increase from figures of past. The generations of 90s like us shied away to admit their mistakes of sowing the wrong seeds. They will not accept it as it is difficult to, and they will ensure that the future generations follow the path of violence and hate through the narrative of victimhood and hate. While some drove narratives as per their convenience to personal examples, advantages, the rest were silent. The harvest was experienced by the Kashmiris, the youth of today, where the youth accounts for 60% of Kashmiri population. It is time for you to take charge and to sow the seeds of success, love and happiness for the generation of the future. Question what you hear from my generation and watch and question what you see in the social media. Not all is truth. Find your smile. Nobody else can do it for you. Definitely not us from the older generation. Embrace the truth and live life in this birth. You must leave a legacy for your future generations. So choose wisely to invest in solving the problems of Kashmir and take charge of society for your own future. You are the hope, my dear friends, and I wish you well. Thank you.